Hi everybody, I'm Elliot Online, and I think this is the Deltarune community right about now.
I'm BFDI.
We are back with new, actually big Deltarune news. So you know Image Friend, Smiling Cat, Yellow Pink Eyes, and No Lame, right? Who would have those? And the absolute obsession of every Deltarune theorist on the planet. Chapter 3 and 4 especially, seem to reveal so much about this mysterious cat and how it'll play a big role in the story, and recently, the Doghole Dungeon / Vision Crew Deltarune Discord, also credit to @Pringles612 for the tweet that began their research, and @CrimsonAlice27 who linked this doc, may just have found its origins. A Japanese story from the 1980s that Toby Fox may have read and may have inspired him to create Image Friend and their involvement in the story. Ladies and gentlemen and others, let's go full Battat. This is Wachifield. Wachifield is a series by Akiko Ikeda that began around 1988 with picture books and written stories. The characters are mostly animals, the main character being a cat named Diane. I obviously won't be pronouncing things right in this video. Anyway, the company began in 1976 as a leather studio, but stories, art exhibitions, and animations quickly came after. We know that Toby Fox loves and has been inspired by Japanese media, and has been able to take and transform his inspirations into something truly unique and original. The Mother / Earthbound series is probably the greatest example of this, with the Forgotten Man being one of the many major inspirations for Deltarune. Anyway, according to this doc, the stories were translated to English around 2008, and we know Toby Fox had the dream for Deltarune around 2011, and the earliest scripts he's posted were around 2012, meaning he could have easily read them. These stories are pretty hard to find since they're Japanese work, and a majority of the people working on this aren't Japanese, I think. I don't know, but a lot of fans are pretty shocked by this. I'm shocked by this, but if you're a Japanese viewer right now and know about this, / can help with the research to determine any more correlations with these stories and Deltarune's story, comment down below. So, why does this actually matter to Deltarune fans? So these stories are simple but contain characters, settings, and plotlines that are very obviously connected to Deltarune. I advise you to go read the doc link down in the description for the stories, and I mean, Deltarune fans could probably take like 15 minutes to read something. But anyhow, let's get into the picture correlations first, since Wachifield involved publishing picture books and written stories. Okay, these first few pictures already just scream Deltarune. Smiling cat figure 1, smiling cat figure 2, you get the deal. Now I'm not saying this pumpkin was an inspiration for Jackenstein. I'm just saying that this pumpkin is not an inspiration for Jackenstein. These outlines, come on, are you serious? So I just realized while recording this that if you don't know these stories, you have no clue what I'm talking about with these pictures, so let's get to the written stories already. The first story is the most revealing one in my opinion, Chibikuro Party. The story is about Madame Moon, one of the characters, giving life to the shadow of the animal characters, including our main character Diane. Already the concept of shadows being brought to life seemed like a very Deltarune thing, objects being brought to life only in dark places, like the shadows themselves are being brought to life when dark enough under moonlight. That parallel is already obvious, I think. Also, it's noteworthy that Halloween is based on, quoting the doc here, the ancient Celtic festival of I don't know how to pronounce that, marking the end of summer and harvest when the boundary between the living and the dead blurred, allowing spirits to roam, leading to traditions like costumes to ward off ghosts, and bonfires later blended with Christian holidays like All Saints Eve, All Hallows Eve as Christianity spread. Basically, the concept of shadows coming to life is very connected to the origins of Halloween, and this story takes place on the Festival for Shadows, the titular Chibikuro Party, an event only held once a year. It's a Halloween festival. Now, what indie game has been setting up a major festival that, according to Jackenstein, will probably be during Halloween? Oh yeah, Celeste. Side note, read this dialogue, it's very funny. Anyhow, Diane's shadow, despite being the shadow of someone else, gets their own name, Chip. Kinda like the Darkners getting their own names. Diane and Chip initially decide to go together, but once Diane sees that it's all just shadows, Diane decides not to go. In the party, Chip meets Noelle, Noel, who is a shadow living in the Deaf Forest. Sounds like a BFDI location. Anyway, Noel is the servant of the Satan of Deaf Forest. The Satan of Deaf Forest ordered Noel to come to the Chibikuro Party to kidnap the shadows. The technique Noel decides to use to convince the other shadows to join him is the promise of freedom. Quote from the story, "We can go to the place where there are a lot of others like us. There, it's not just one stingy time a year. Every day is a festival for shadows." Okay, so Noel/Noelle, pretty obvious connection, but a story where the Satan of the Forest uses Noel/Noelle to kidnap shadows during festival Halloween night it's a whole lot more correlations there. To analyze this, it's interesting to see the possible connection that Noelle may have been the first to be kidnapped and tricked by Image_friend, who, according to the Tale of Hell prophecy, aligns them with the Satan of the Forest character. If we believe these two characters are connected, Noelle may have been the first involved with Image Friend and may have convinced Des and most likely Kris to join along, causing something horrible to happen to all three that results in Des disappearing and Kris and Noelle being traumatized. And also, the promise of freedom to the shadows sounds exactly like what the Knight told other Darkners, which led to Darkners like King praising freedom from their Lightner counterparts, also freedom motif mentioned. Anyway, continuing with the story, Diane hears of the plan to get all the shadows to live independently and gets their friend Jitan, who still has his shadow attached to him. The two ring the bell at the north side of the city to wake up the animals and tell them about the situation. Jitan tells Diane that if the shadows enter Death Forest, they'll be made servants of Satan that'll be worked hard and worn out. Jitan also calls Madame Moon for help. The animals eventually reach their shadows, and before Diane can tell Chip what'll truly happen, the moon comes in and plays music that gets both animals and shadows to dance together delightfully, and with the quote, "Let's just stop being apart," the sun rises from the east sky, and the shadows and the animals come together again. But what happened to Noel? Well, to quote the story, Noel was so fascinated by the polka dancing that he had kept time with the polka music without meaning to. He had melted away at the break of day, and nothing remained of him. So these connections in this later part are less obvious because either they weren't parts Toby Fox took inspiration from, or parts that indicate future events. All the shadows coming together kind of feel Castle-towny to me, a bunch of shadows coming together, a bunch of darkness coming together. I think it's interesting that Image Friend's plan would just be to make other Lightners servants. I think this may be connected to the soul and becoming a servant through the soul. Image Friend's plan has only worked on one person we know so far if this is the case. It's Kris. That part where the moon comes in and plays music that results in a happy dance, I don't know how to connect that to anything, maybe a future resolution, but Noel's end with him melting away at the break of day is really scary and horrifying since Noel is the servant, and if we want to connect it to Deltarune, someone who's possessed by the soul, considering this, I wonder if this is what'll happen to Kris without the soul or just anyone who doesn't have a soul inside of them when they need it. So this story takes place during winter and Diane meets Jitan after not seeing him after a long time. Jitan invites them to the beach and quote, Diane actually didn't want to go to the beach on such a cold day, but it had been a long time since he last met Jitan. He was just simply happy that Jitan invited him to go along. Now this sounds very Noelle-Kris relationship to me. Noelle hadn't seen Kris in a long time and was just generally happy, though surprised, to be able to reconnect with them. Also this quote, but the north wind raged with such might that nobody was able to go out of the house. As the Uraka festival approached, the north wind finally lost its power, but the cold did not let up. That saying about the north wind aligns with this night fight dialogue. Suddenly, the north wind blew fiercely. Also the song Northern Light. Anyway, they head to this festival at the beach and there are a bunch of weird animals they've never seen before, fluffy polar bear, whatever, but then this quote is really interesting to me. Then, at this moment, Jitan's bow fell upon the strings of his violin. The opening dance awakened the snow god, announcing the beginning of the festival. As their dancing shook the earth, snow began to fall. It turned out to be the heaviest snowfall they had ever seen, and the guests from the north were more than happy. Okay, so there's a snow god. What if we made the snow god into a snow goddess? I wonder what would happen. Also, snow beginning to fall from the earth aligns with the unused Coldwater fell from the top of the sky prophecy that's unused for now, and I think it'll be used later or at least a plot point because it has been referenced both in the newsletter and the Toby Fox email ARG. Also, a dancing shook the earth and roaring correlation can be made. Now I'm not really sure what happens at the end of this excerpt they provided, some snow magic stuff, then a snowball pops up that seems to have someone inside it. What first appeared was a jet black nose. Then, this lump shook off the snow and opened a pair of deep black eyes. The dancers surrounding the dazed polar bear cub began dancing again. There'd never been such a big crowd before during Europa, nor will there be in the future. When the dancing ended, the white guests from the white land disappeared into the eternal white snow. Jeez, everybody's white here. Again, this may be future stuff, but the description of a jet black nose and deep black eyes emerging from somewhere sounds really weird to me and sounds like a Titan basically. That's what I'm comparing it to. Well, not really, because they don't have those, but like if the Titan had faces like this early formation, I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff at a wall here. What do you people think? Story 3 is a much shorter excerpt about a 1,000-year sloth seeing lazy cats, quote, up in the tree roots. A character named Zidane is searching for a missing Diane and is told that they're in the sloth tree. I'll just read this last part out loud. This must be the root. The cats have already become so engrossed in the tree that it is no longer recognizable as a tree. and the Millennium Sloth is sitting on top of it. The windbags are no longer effective. So other than Roots being a prophecy, and as GoldPro theorized in the Roots theory, the best chapter 3 and 4 theory so far probably, the Roots are probably a location involved with the Tale of Hell / Image Friend. It's just really interesting that if Toby Fox read a lot of these stories, because there are so many correlations and parallels even in this short excerpt. A few more stuff I wanted to mention was in story 1, Diane and Chip go out to Squirrel Street where the squirrels are holding lanterns. Those squirrels lead the two to the Chibikuro party itself. I think the lantern correlation could be made with Sham and his song Lantern. Sham seems to be leading us to a darker place, like those squirrels. But yeah, there are probably more correlations to be made. Please read the document linked in the description for more of this stuff. Obviously, this could all be one massive coincidence. Toby Fox may never have read this at all, but it's still fun to see how these ideas parallel Deltarune's stories so well. If it was an inspiration to Toby Fox, then it's interesting what he wrote in Deltarune chapter 4 about the power of stories transforming, and I feel like he really emphasized the ability to expand / evolve on a written story and make something truly beautiful and unique and new from it. So yeah, thanks Wachifield online community, I hope you exist.